So my name is Sergeant Spencer. I'm a recruiter with the New York Army National Guard. I work out of Latham, right over at the headquarters for the Division of Military and Naval Affairs. I went to Burnt Hills High School, graduated in 2018, and I actually joined the Army National Guard at 17 when I was a senior in high school, and I enlisted as a medic. So I wanted to go over just the difference in the military branches and components. So obviously I'm an Army National Guard recruiter, so I'm a subject matter expert on the Army National Guard. So there's some nuances between the different branches, and I'm going to do my best to kind of go over everything. So first of all, there's a difference between a branch and a component, right? So the four branches of the Army, or excuse me, of the military. We have the Marines, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, and you can sort of consider the Coast Guard a branch, but they do fall under Department of Homeland Security now. And then there's each branch will have a component. So for instance, the Marines have a reserve component and an active component. Same thing with the Navy, and the Army has an active, reserve, and National Guard component, and the Air Force has an active, reserve, National Guard component, and the Coast Guard has just an active and a reserve component, and I believe they also have an auxiliary component and that's strictly volunteer. So I'll go run down pretty much the purpose for each branch. So the Marines they're a smaller, like expeditionary rapid response force. They have air, land, and sea capacity. The Navy, right? So they're there to ensure freedom of the seas, deter threats, and they're the backbone of the logistics for any sort of large scale combat operations. And they ensure, like I said, ensure the freedom of the seas. So they're on the water, and they have aviation units, special warfare, and cyber. And now the Army, right? Their primary function is land warfare. We do have a lot of aviation units in the Army, and the primary focus is large-scale combat operations. So like anything on the ground, any big campaigns, things like that. With the caveat that the Army National Guard, right? We fall under the Army. We are there for domestic purposes and going overseas, right? So anything inside of the United States pretty much falls under the Army National Guard. So that can be anything from border security to civil unrest, natural disasters, and things within the state. So the Army National Guard falls under the governor of the state or the territory that they're in by default, unless they get called up for federal active service, for instance, to go overseas. All right, so you have the Air Force. Air Force, they are there to provide logistics and support to pretty much the rest of the military, and they provide ISR, so intel, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Like I said, they also have a National Guard as well, and they serve the same functions that the Army National Guard serves, except just on the Air Force side of things. All right, so I'll go over joining in high school and I guess the benefits of joining and what it would look like to join in high school. So you are eligible to join the military, and that's any branch, at 17 years old with parent permission. You can join at 18 without parent permission, obviously. For high school juniors that are 17, they have the ability to do what's called split option training, and I believe most branches offer this. I know at the very least we do in the Army National Guard. And what that would look like is when you enlist, you go to basic training in between your junior and your senior year. And once you graduate high school, then you go do your job training, or your different branches call it different things. We call it AIT, Advanced Initial Training. The Air Force calls it Tech School. I believe the Navy does as well. But that's like the actual technical training that you receive to get a military occupational specialty or a job in the military. For the National Guard, the way that, or reserve, any reserve component, so Army Reserve, Marine Corps Reserve, Navy, it doesn't matter what it is, when you are done with your job training, you come back home. So one of the benefits for doing the split option training route for, say, the National Guard is your time in service starts immediately when you enlist. So with the split option training, going to, which means going to basic training in between your junior and your senior year, the time on your contract starts counting immediately. So if you were to enlist as a high school junior and you do a 6-year contract, that's by the time you're MOS qualified. So by the time you finish all your training, you've almost completed like 2 years out of that 6-year obligation. And I always tell people as well, like the earlier you get in, the earlier you can retire. So like I said, I was 17 when I enlisted. I can retire with a regular non-regular retirement at 37 and a half. But I've been full-time, so I can retire at 38 and a half now. If I continue being full-time in the National Guard. So there's a qualification process to join the military. And honestly, we're seeing more and more now people are interested, but not qualified. I think they say only about 24% of the military aged US population is even qualified to join. So there is a little bit of a pre-qualification process, and the way that it works is you have to take the ASVAB. And this is the same process for any branch and any component. You have to take the ASVAB, which is a multiple choice entrance exam. And it's got math, science, English, automotive, mechanical, electronics, and it tells us two things. It tells us A, whether or not you're qualified to enlist, or B, if what job you qualify for, what jobs you're best suited for, because it computes out a lot of different specific line scores and stuff that we can use. So if you have an individual that passed the ASVAB, then you move on to medical pre-screening. So we sit down with them and we ask a whole bunch of questions about their medical history. And we send that paperwork into MEPS. MEPS is the Military Entrance and Processing Station, where we go for anything related to joining the military. But we send that, it gets reviewed by doctors, and the doctors will give us either a thumbs up and said, hey, come take the physical, or hey, we need more paperwork about some medical issue that popped up. But if they give us the thumbs up to take the physical, then you go in and take the physical. It's like a really in-depth doctor's appointment. So you look at the eye charts, your hearing, they do some blood work, drug, alcohol, HIV testing, things like that. And then you go sit down with the provider. And if you pass the physical, then you are able to pick a job. So not all branches can guarantee a job. I know Army, and that's active duty Army, Army Reserve, and Army National Guard, we can guarantee a job. I believe the Air Force can as well. I don't think the Marines can. I'm not 100% sure about the Navy, and I have no idea about the Coast Guard either. But the way that works for the Army National Guard specifically is we work off of vacancies. So we have a roster of about, right now, maybe I would say probably about 100 different positions that need to be filled. And if somebody qualifies for that, and then there's also training seats, I can reserve that vacancy. So when they go in to sign their contract, they are pretty much guaranteed to, one, be in that unit, so they know where they're going to go for drill, and they know where there are, or they know where they're going to go for AIT because they've already reserved that job. And with the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard, your time in service starts immediately. So if you do a 6-year contract, the day you sign that contract, you start chipping away at the time on that contract, versus say active duty Army or any of the other active components or the reserve components. I believe it's not until you leave for basic training. So that's a little bit of a difference for us. So I'll go over some of the benefits. So there's quite a few. Some of them they might not seem applicable to high school students, but they will in the long run. The benefits vary by branch, so I can really only talk about the specifics with the Army National Guard. So pretty much first thing is it's a guaranteed paycheck. It's competitive. Military pay has gotten a lot better over the past, I would say, 10 years. If you're on any sort of active orders and you qualify for it, you can get a housing allowance, right, which is a tax-free stipend, and that puts you in a lower tax bracket. So on paper, it might not look like you're making a lot of money, but in order to take home the same amount of money on the civilian side, you'd have to make a lot more. So the other big thing, and this I think is really helpful for 17, 18-year-old kids, is you get some paid job training, and you can kind of figure out like what you want to do. So each branch of the military has probably 100, 130 different military occupational specialties that they're going to train you for. Some are a little bit more helpful when it comes to getting a job on the civilian side than others. And along with that, you can get, for certain positions, you get security clearances. It can help get, jobs in law enforcement, or certain certificates. Like we have IT specialists, and they get their like Cisco Security Plus certifications. I'm a medic. I got right out of my AIT, right out of my initial job training, I was able to get a EMT basic certification. Most military training will give you some sort of, we call them, like, you get a JST, which is a joint service transcript, which equates to ACE credits, or like certain college credits. So some institutions will take them for college credits, so it can help with that as well. Then there's the retirement. Retirement it's a guaranteed annuity. It's a pension that you get for doing a certain amount, or for usually it's 20 years. For the National Guard, there's two different types of retirement that you can get. One is the regular retirement. So if you do 20 years active, like I plan to do, then you can collect pretty much half of your base pay for the rest of your life the day that you retire. If you do 20 years in the National Guard part-time, then you get what's called the non-regular retirement, which is half of your base pay, and that you start collecting at 60. Or if you have active service mixed in with the 20 years part-time, then you can start to collect it earlier based on the amount of active service that you have. The military also offers a TSP, and that stands for a thrift savings plan. It is the federal government's and military's version of a 401k, civilian 401k. They match up to 5%. And that's sort of a newer benefit, the matching up to 5%, because they realize a lot of people were not doing a full 20 years. So even if you do, 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, whatever, you can take that and you can roll it over into a civilian 401k when you get out of the military. So it's, a lot of people won't think about this, or 17, 18-year-old kids won't think about investing in all our saving for retirement. But the military kind of forces you to save for retirement, because they auto match 1%, and you match up to 5% of your base pay. And just that time in the market is really going to help you save for retirement in the long run. Move on to the VA home loan. You can qualify for this with a certain amount of it. For the National Guard, you need to do 90 days cumulative of full-time orders, or 6 years in the Guard just as a traditional guardsman. And the VA home loan allows you to put 0% down on a home, and you don't have to pay any PMI or private mortgage insurance. And it helps. They have competitive interest rates usually with the institutions that will work with the VA home loan. Next, we have health insurance. So we have TRICARE and TRICARE Select Reserve. So anytime you are in any sort of duty status with the National Guard or active duty, you have completely free health care. And that's health, vision, and dental. If you're a traditional guardsman or a reservist, so it doesn't matter if it's the Marine Corps Reserve or Army National Guard or Air National Guard, you can buy into TRICARE Select Reserve, which is all it means is you just have to pay a small amount of money for a single soldier. It's $58, I believe it's $58 a month to have the same health insurance that you would have if you were full time. You can also, kind of a side benefit as well, is anywhere there's a PX, post exchange, or a base exchange, you can shop for free, get free groceries if there's a commissary around, not tax free groceries and tax free shopping. This Next benefit kind of does not apply to high school students, but I'll mention it anyways. Most military branches offer some sort of student loan repayment up to $50,000 for qualifying federal student loans. Next thing we'll touch on is the education benefits. So the New York Army National Guard and the New York Air National Guard, in my opinion, have some of the best education benefits for part-time service. And that's because we are partially a state entity. Because, by default, we are under the authority of the governor unless we get called up. So New York State offers something called RIRP, which is a recruit incentive and retention program. So if you are a traditional Army National Guardsman or Air National Guardsman in New York, you can go to school and we will cover 100% tuition up to the SUNY rate. So you can go to SUNY school for free, or if you go to a private school that exceeds the SUNY rate, they'll cover up to the SUNY rate. We also have federal tuition assistance. So it's a stipend. You get an extra $4,000 a year that you can use towards tuition. We have the Montgomery GI Bill Select Reserve, which is a $481 a month payment that you get every month you're a full-time student, and it is totally tax-free. It goes right into your bank account. Then we have the GI Bill Kicker. There's a stipulation you need to get a 50 or above on the ASVAB and sign for a 6-year contract, but it just adds to the amount of money that you get with the Montgomery GI Bill. So it could be an extra $350 a month. And then we have credentialing assistance, which is an extra $2,000 a year you can use for any sort of certification you'd like. You can do something related to your occupational specialty in the military. For instance, like I said, I'm a medic and I was able to get a EKG technician certification out of it. I know people who have gotten things like their bartending license and other things like phlebotomy certifications and stuff like that. You can also qualify through if you do, say, like a deployment, or if you get called up inside of the United States for certain emergencies, you can qualify for the post 9/11 GI Bill, which it covers your tuition, but it also pays a housing allowance while you're going to school. There's a couple more benefits I'll talk about. For the National Guard specifically, you have to qualify for it. We have $10,000 and $20,000 enlistment bonuses. If you qualify, or you need a 50 or above in the ASVAB, and you need to pick the 2 in-demand jobs. The one last thing I will touch on with this, like, specific benefits is once you complete your service or complete, say, like a deployment with the National Guard or a reserve component, you get federal, like, protected veteran status, and this can help you apply for jobs, say things like this. It will give you points on, like, the civil service exam if you're trying to become a police officer, but it will also help you with your property taxes. So I deployed to the Horn of Africa in 2022 to 2023. And it was at the time technically considered a combat zone. So for the rest of my life, I will get 25% off my property taxes, at least here in Saratoga County. Now there's some soft skills and stuff that you can get from the military as well that people don't necessarily think about. You get, general leadership skills, personal or self-discipline. I was kind of like the class clown when I was in high school. And I did not like college at all, or I didn't like school at all, and I didn't know what to do. I joined as a medic, and I found out that, hey, I actually really like learning about medicine and stuff. So right now I go to school part-time at Hudson Valley. I'm trying to get into the military as a physician assistant program. And I currently have a 4.0, which is something if I were to have gone to school gone to college right out of after high school, I mean, I more than likely would have failed out. So the military gave me that sort of discipline and drive, and it helped me find my interest in sort of a path in life. Military obviously helps with no matter what branch. Definitely some branches are better than others at this, but physical fitness. So the Marines are honestly the best. Army, I'd say we're second. It helps with just resilience, and you get a sense of like camaraderie. And honestly, it's a unique experience, and all of these things like just what you end up doing in your pay, the job training that you can receive can really help down the road with applying for jobs when you get out of service, and it can help build your resume. That's pretty much all I have for this. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Do you need to have a high school diploma to enter every branch of the military?
So I am not 100% sure about every branch, but the Army, and that goes for the Army active duty, Army Reserve, and the Army National Guard, you either need a GED or a high school diploma, or you need 15 college credits. So like if somebody couldn't pass a GED or dropped out of high school, they can go attend like a community college as like a non-matriculated student and go take, what, five or so, 4 or 5 classes and meet our education requirements.
Yep. Miss Murphy, you have a question?
Yes. Hi. I have a question.
Sure.
So students taking the ASVAB, is that something that they can prepare for before they, obviously just kind of walk in and take it?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I like to do is there's something called a PICAT, which is it's an official version of the practice test. And the way that it's supposed to be used is the person will come to the recruiting office and take it on our computer, and we kind of proctor it and make sure they're not, using a calculator or Googling anything. I don't have them come in the office to proctor it. I will send them a link and I'll have them do it at home. And what that lets me do is I can pull their score and show them how they did with each individual category, right? So we have 4 categories that make up like that overall score that tell you whether or not you're qualified to join. It's arithmetic reasoning. So it's like, math word problems. And then you have mathematics knowledge, which is like high school level algebra. And then you have vocabulary and paragraph comprehension. But I can take that and I can show them exactly what they need to work on, and then give them a little bit of time before they schedule the ASVAB. And I have, different study materials and stuff that I can give them. We're not supposed to do this, but I do it sometimes. I'll have certain people who are close to passing, but maybe, a few points away, I will have them come to my office and kind of go over. Usually it's the math, like just a refresher on some of the math. But in all honesty, like if someone did a decent in high school algebra, or, are able to pass those kind of classes, they'll probably do okay on the ASVAB. At least be able to pass.
Thank you. Tell me, you talked about coming to the recruiting center, and I know that there's a big recruiting center at Colony Center that it seems to have multiple branches there. Is that where someone would go if they were interested?
So I guess it depends on what branch you're looking for. The Colony Center is just for, I believe, the active and reserve. So I think there's the Army and the Navy and then possibly the Marine Corps out of there as well. But if they're looking to join the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard, I work out of Latham. We don't really do walk-ins just because you have to get through a gate and stuff. But you can find my number online. I can actually give it to you, put it in the chat. But or you can Google like National Guard recruiter, and honestly, that's probably the easiest way. Military recruiter, and then you can put each branch has a website you can go on, and you put your contact info in there, and it goes right into a recruiter's system, and then they can give the individual a call.
And once upon a time, once a student made contact with the recruiter, there was a lot of contact from the recruiter. Is that still how it works? Or can a student reach out because they're just exploring, but then they won't be sort of inundated with phone calls and emails sort of thing?
Truthfully, I think it depends on the recruiter. I know myself and my office partner do not recruit that way. So I believe you met Sergeant Cossey at the CASDA fair. So he always tells a story about how he joined. He needed a pencil. He was going to a class and needed a pencil, and he stopped by a recruiter's table, and he was like, "Sure, I'll give you the pencil. You got to fill this out." And he put his name and number down, and the recruiter blew up his phone until he ended up coming in for an appointment and eventually joined. I know that he does not recruit like that, and I do not recruit like that. I have a list of people that are trying to join, and it's not conducive to, I can go to a high school and not necessarily, I don't want to say strong arm people into filling out, like, putting their contact information down, but it doesn't help me find out who's actually interested. So there's really no point in doing it. I'm sure that some recruiters will end up doing that. Like I said, I don't recruit like that. I always tell people too, like the New York Army National Guard we're like 1,500 soldiers over strength, and there's only about like maybe 100 or so vacancies that we're trying to fill at any given time. So we're not like hurting for numbers, if that makes sense. So I love to help people out if they're interested in joining. I'll do what I can for them, but I don't need to hound people to join, if that makes sense. So it looks like we have a question: is non-citizen eligible for joining? Yeah. So you need either a green card, or you need to be naturalized or born here. So I enlist actually quite a few green card holders. And there has to be, we call it a suitability review, where we look at pretty much the length of time left on the green card. And I think it has to be like at least 6 months when they join. But they're absolutely eligible to join with the green card. You actually can qualify. They do like a background investigation, and once they give you, they call it like a positive security status, because they can't grant non-U.S. citizen security clearances, but they essentially do the full security clearance investigation. And once they give them that like positive security status, they can apply to be naturalized, and it waives, like, there's like it's like a $700 or $800 filing fee that they can waive as well through USCIS. They just need pretty much proof that they're in the military. And the cool thing about the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard is your time in service starts immediately. So the second you take your oath and you sign your contract, you are a service member. So once they attend like their first drill, even before going to basic training, and they get that like positive security status after the background investigation concludes, we get a full bird colonel to sign off on it's an N426 from the USCIS that basically says, hey, yeah, this person is in the military and they're actively attending drill. And then they can submit that with an N400, and it waives like the filing fee and the length of time requirement, so they can become naturalized.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And there's one more thing about that as well. So if someone has a family member, I believe it has to be like a spouse or parents who is here, they're undocumented. They can apply. It is I think the only way now to apply for this. It's called parole in place, where they can pretty much petition USCIS to get their family member temporary legal status through military service, right? So if they are a service member, they can. It doesn't work for people who like overstayed visas, anything like that. It's strictly people who came here like outside of a port of entry, and they can petition for temporary legal status.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise. I appreciate it.
Of course.
We had captions on, so all of it was recorded as well.
That's fantastic.
I think the time for this segment's up, so you're welcome to stay if you'd like to, but I think we're going to move on to our next segment. Which
all right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
So Wendy Richards from SUNY Cobleskill, who is the Director of Accessibility Resources. But Wendy, if you don't mind waiting just a second, I want to see if I can change my screen so
Sure.
that it's, because we're recording and I'm like, I don't even know if people will be able to see you. So
Okay, that's okay.
just one second. I'm not an expert at this, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So we're just going to leave it alone because I'm afraid I'll end up disconnecting everybody. So we're just going to keep it as is. But do you know how to share your screen? Because I'm assuming that will end up taking up the screen.
I believe I can.
Okay.
There we go. And let me just. Do you see this?
Yep.
All right, I wanted to go. So Slideshow from beginning. Oh. Are you seeing the first slide, Amy? Oh.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay, I can't see you, so just let me know.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I can see the slide and see you. Okay. Hopefully I can forward it from here. Okay, so you can see the first slide.
Yep. And it moved forward already, so I think you're good.
Okay, perfect. I'll just do it one more time. Again, my name is Wendy Richards. I'm here to talk about college accessibility services. These services can be applied to any college that you choose. I tried to make it generic. So college expectations. One of the things that I wanted to try to show was the difference between high school supports and college supports. So in high school right now, students probably have many adults, teachers around, taking the lead, taking charge, letting you know where you need to be at what time, where to go, maybe even telling you, I see that you might not be doing so well in math, so let's set up some supports, which is wonderful. It is great to be looked after so well. When you're in college, you're going to be taking the lead. And when I say you, I definitely mean you, the student. You will be taking the lead. Parents will not be included as much. Parents will be more like the cheerleader. They've done everything for you in high school, and now they're going to be your coach in the background. So you take the lead. Students need to request accommodations, and they need to ask for help when needed. Accommodations and services. In high school, services are provided automatically through your IEP or your 504. In college, accommodations are approved through either, it's called an accessibility resources office, access and equity, disability services. Most of the time, it has the word access in it. Make sure you're looking for those offices to be able to be registered so you can receive your accommodations. Accommodations are usually put forth every semester, and the student, you will need to sign for them every semester. The way we set up accommodations is we need a copy of your most recent psychological. I think one of the biggest takeaways from documentation that I would like you to know is that we need the psychological. Your IEP is helpful, but it's not sufficient documentation in higher ed. Advocacy. This might be something very new for students to do, but in high school, parents are your advocate, right? Parents are the ones who are helping you, guiding you, asking those questions, attending meetings with you, maybe attending meetings in place of you. And right now, that's a wonderful thing, and it's a great thing to learn from. In college, students will need to advocate for themselves. So again, parents are the cheerleaders behind the scene, but you, the student, will be going and making these decisions. You'll have to be listening to the meetings, understanding what's happening in the meetings, asking questions if you don't understand. And that's what advocacy is about. If something is being said and you don't understand it, make sure you're asking those questions to clarify anything that you're not understanding. It's a good characteristic to even remember when you're sitting in a classroom in college. You're going to want to ask a lot of questions if you're not understanding things. Reminders and follow-ups. So right now in high school, you might get reminders about homework. Oh, you might have, missed the deadline a day ago, and your teacher might say, that's no problem. just turn it in by Friday and you will get extended deadlines in high school. Maybe some teachers are like that, and that's wonderful. In college, you're not going to get as many reminders for homework assignments, deadlines. Students are expected to track their deadlines and follow the syllabus. Even deadlines with signing up for clubs, financial aid deadlines, signing up for special housing, signing up for different things, you're really going to need to keep track of the deadlines and make sure that you're meeting them, because there will definitely be consequences for not making a deadline. And one consequence might be you're not able to join the club that you wanted to join, or you've missed the time to sign up for financial aid, and that would be terrible. So it's a lot to remember, but you'll be emailed, and I would say just use a reminder, on your calendar to keep yourself organized. Grades and deadlines. So in high school, you might have more flexibility and extensions for homework. You might get a few extra days if maybe you weren't feeling well, or if you had a snow day, which I know we've had a lot this year. Um, and you might be able to make up work if your grade wasn't as good as you wanted it. You might be able to ask your teacher, could I just make up that work or have another go at it? And flexibility is a really important thing in high school, and it's good to have. But in higher ed, in college, deadlines really matter, and extensions are accommodations, and only when they're approved. So they're not for every student. You will not be allowed to turn in homework late. I had a student come to me. She said one of the biggest things that she learned was this, that, wow, faculty really want me to turn things in on time. And she said in high school, I had a lot of flexibility. So this was a big challenge for her, and it was a big change. I will say, though, that she's graduating and she will be a preschool teacher. So she learned how to make sure she met all of those deadlines. Communication. That's another very important thing. I always like to say, nothing about you without you. So in high school, teachers are always checking in to see if you're struggling. You might have a resource room teacher. You might have a TA in your classroom, and they're going to be watching. They're going to be seeing if you're doing well, if you're not doing well, if you're struggling. Um, in college, professors expect students to reach out before the problems pile up. Um, One thing I always like to tell high school students who are thinking about going to college, um, you start college the end of August, and by the end of December, you're not even the end of December, by mid-December, you're done with your first semester. Each semester is about 16 weeks long. In high school, by mid-December, you still have the rest of the year to get things done. So the pace is quicker, and you're going to make sure that you communicate with your faculty when you're in college, and your professor. They're people too. They want to see you be successful. So make sure you're raising your hand. You're getting to know them. It's about a relationship when you come into higher ed. It's about making friends with your professors and being able to talk with them. And they want to impart their knowledge to you. So communication is the key. Don't be afraid to speak up. Supports still exist. They just look a little different. In high school, supports come to you. Um, this may have been when you were first given a diagnosis, and it might seem very foreign to you. You might not know, what is a learning disability? How does ADHD affect me? But in high school, your teachers and your parents are there to give you so much support. In college, Supports are available, but you have to make sure that you step up and you ask for them. And I would recommend that every student who is looking to go to college set up these supports prior to starting their semester. It makes for a more seamless transition. You are in the driver's seat when it comes to the accommodations. You can use them for the classes that you want. You don't have to use them for every class. But I would not recommend starting the semester, getting halfway through it, and then realizing you're needing the accommodations, because it takes a bit to set them up. And we want to make sure that you have the best start to your semester. I've seen too many students want to leave it all behind and start their semester without accommodations. And it hasn't always turned out well. Some, it's been just fine, but not all the time. So we definitely recommend set them up, and you can choose to use them when you want to. In one of the biggest differences, I think, from high school to college is high school is about success. So any and all accommodations or modifications to get the student to the finish line being graduation. In college, accommodations are about access and how to take out the barriers to accessing the curriculum. So the accommodations can look a little different. An example that I'm going to give is a student has a learning disability in reading, and the accommodation might be using note-taking software. In high school, I've read IEPs where students are given study guides, they're given outlines of notes. The teacher provides all of those things. In college, it depends on the college that you go to, but for the most part, it's going to be very independent. You'll be using software for note taking and not so much relying on another person. So it's really important to familiarize yourself with the different softwares that are out there. And you can even give them a test drive. A lot of them give you free access for 3 months, 2 months, and then you can know what works best for you. But this is just one example of an accommodation in high school compared to college. So our decision making, how does an office determine the appropriate accommodation? So we first look at the documentation and we say, does the student have a disability? If it's yes, then we proceed to the next question. Relative to that specific disability, is the requested accommodation logical, reasonable, and necessary to provide equitable access that removes the barrier? And when I say the requested accommodation, students sometimes come to college and think there's a menu or a list of accommodations that they can pick from, when really what we're asking the student to do is to say, based on my disability, how does it create a barrier to me accessing my curriculum? If I'm a student with a learning disability in reading, I would say I need assistance with note taking. I need to be able to type out or use speech to text for my papers. And the disability provider will say, yeah, that seems reasonable, logical, and necessary. So that's how we determine accommodations. There's no list. It's more of, this is how my disability presents a barrier. And through a conversation, you and the provider will be able to come up with some accommodations. College resources. Tutoring is generally free and unlimited. Students can go to their tutoring center. Some colleges, you sign up for tutoring. Some tutoring is just on a drop-in basis. At Cobiskill, students can just look up online the tutors who are available, and you can just come in and drop in and have a tutoring session. We have group tutoring. Some colleges have private tutoring, so individualized tutoring and group tutoring. Some colleges offer academic coaching. This helps with those executive functioning skills And what I mean by that is organizational skills, time management skills, those sort of things. If you have an IEP, you definitely qualify for Access VR. That will be an organization that you'll start hearing about more and more. And I definitely recommend getting connected with them. Um, they can help with supports in college, like perhaps paying for tuition, paying for books, supplies, fees. It's some things are financial based, but some things are not. And one of the things that are not financial based with Access VR is that they can pay for private tutoring. Some assistive technology that we use at SUNY Cobleskill is Genio for note taking, Read Write Gold reads websites. I've used Bookshare. We have Dragon Naturally Speaking. We use Microsoft Dictate, but there's a whole host of assistive technologies that you could explore and look at and just find the one that best fits your needs. Some helpful additional information. Again, Access VR, they are a state, through the state education department, and high schools should connect you to them. Maybe your junior, senior year. Again, they can provide things based on your financial situation. They could maybe provide tuition. They can definitely provide private tutoring, pay for fees, uniforms. Their main goal when you graduate from college is to help you get a job. So I think just for that reason alone, it's really good to be connected. You have the opportunity of setting up your accommodations, whether it be academic accommodations, housing accommodations, prior to the start of the semester, by providing your most recent psychological. And accommodations can be set up at any time during the semester. We Most colleges have a process for requesting an emotional support animal, a special housing accommodation. It's probably just an application. And just familiarize yourself with the college's website or call the disability service provider office and they can provide you with all that information. It's your responsibility to provide your instructor with a copy of your accommodation plan. I do know it's kind of 50-50. Some colleges do it for you. They'll forward your accommodation letter directly to your faculty member. But some colleges like Cobleskill, we send you the letter and then you forward it to each of your instructors. So everybody does it differently. Make sure you're asking those important questions. Communicate with your faculty. As I said before, they're people too, and they want you to succeed. And most times they can be your best tutors. So definitely go to their office hours, meet with them. There's no silly question. They want you to be successful. All right. Do you have any questions? If you have questions tonight, that would be great. I'll stop my sharing and I can put my information in the chat. And you can feel free, even if you're not planning to attend SUNY Cobleskill, feel free to send me an email. And if you had any questions, I'm happy to answer. My goal tonight is to provide as much information as possible so you can make the best decisions about which college might be best for you. And I think I have one more. Yep. And I'll stop sharing. Okay.
Wendy, we just had a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, good. Okay.
Are students able to use their most recent psychological evaluation from the high school?
Yes, that's a great question, Lauren. Thank you. At Cobleskill and most colleges, we look to have at least within the last 3 years. We look at that psychological. I will go even so far as to say, at my college, if a student has been declassified in their junior or senior year, but they've been diagnosed with something like ADHD, a learning disability, I still honor that because to me, as a professional, I don't know how you outgrow that kind of a thing. So I do honor that. And through a discussion with the student, we can still provide accommodations.
And I know you mentioned, but the academic coaching, they can
Yep.
help students. Can you talk a little bit more about how they help students with organization and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So at SUNY Cobleskill, we have 2 outside organizations who provide academic coaching, but we also have our own in-house academic coach. One of the things that they provide is meeting with the student one-on-one, meeting them where they are. Let's get your books out. Let's get that calendar out, or let's use your Outlook calendar. A lot of times colleges don't use Google. So I kind of want to throw in there too. They're using Outlook. So it's similar, but just know that you may not be using a Google calendar. I digress, but they'll look at your deadlines. Let's put them someplace. Decide what that organizational piece is. Is it an electronic calendar? Is it a paper calendar? Let's work back from the deadlines. If something's due in May, when do you need to start working on it? When do you need to chunk it out? So they really do help with organizing. And I think it's a really nice resource.
Thank you.
Sure. Do you want me to read through the questions? I think I could look at the chat.
Oh yeah, no, so those were the 2 that were presented. But Wendy, I have one other question.
Yes.
Some students in high school have a 504 plan. Some students have an IEP.
Yep.
How does that work in college? Like, are there different services available to students based on that?
So no. The short answer is no. IEPs and 504s, they do expire, right? So I look at if a student has a 504 plan, say they have it for low vision or diabetes, or there's a medical condition going on. I just request further medical documentation about how that diagnosis creates a barrier. Sometimes students come and they say, I have diabetes and I need to be able to have a snack when I need to. And that's really not, an accommodation isn't needed for something like that. We're human. Your faculty member is a human being, and they realize that if you need to have a snack because of your low blood sugar, you absolutely can. When it's more severe and you're missing a class because it's not under control, or you need to have extended time on an exam if your blood sugar is not regulated, then we can talk more about what might a reasonable accommodation be. Sometimes a student has a diagnosis but they don't require an accommodation, and we determine all of those things with the student. Let me see. Misconceptions students have about life after graduating. Think school should address work clearly to help them prepare for reality. Okay, so Evan, you're asking about, so you get a degree, a student gets a degree, and what happens after? Is that what you're asking? Hopefully you are, and I can, okay. The cold hard truth is colleges are, as far as accommodations, we want to help you be successful while you're in school. The after part, I would connect with a college's career success, career development. They call them different offices. They will help you with interview skills. So what I'm saying is it's not my office that generally does those kinds of things, but there is an office at the college that you're choosing. Hopefully, that's another thing to look at, that can help you with preparing for interview skills, going to job fairs. So yes, there are departments that can help. I hope I've answered that question. Any other questions? And I will put my information in the chat in case anybody wanted to just, hey, I thought of something later and I'd really love to ask you, and I'd be happy to answer.
And we will be posting your PowerPoint, although we're turning it into a slideshow, right on our website. So people will still be able to access it there as well.
Oh,
Since you
good.
were so kind to include it in your
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. I think the biggest takeaways are know your disability, know how it creates the barrier, be able to talk about it. There is no shame in coming to college with a diagnosis. No one knows. Your faculty have no idea your exact diagnosis. They just know that you're a student that receives accommodations. So I really want to empower all of you that there's just no shame. In fact, down in my area where my office is located, we've got pictures of famous people that have disabilities or diagnosis, and we just want to show that this can be your superpower. This can be something that you can tap into, and you can say, "Wow, you know, I can." My ADHD helps me multitask. If you can harness all of those wonderful things about your diagnosis, it's what makes you special, and it's what makes you unique. And that's what's really important. Um, you coming to college, sharing your gifts, sharing your talents, not letting anything get in the way. And we really hope that um, you empower yourself and learn that it's just a great thing to come to college and meet so many different people and have great experiences.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise and being willing to have people reach out to you afterwards. We really appreciate it.
Of
It was
course.
wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Should I stick around, Amy? I think I was the last presenter, right?
Oh, no, we've got one more after you. So,
Oh, okay.
so you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to have the rest of your evening. So-
Okay, that's great. For tutors, how long can you spend with a tutor? I can answer this question if you want to move on, Amy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, we still have one more minute, but uh, Tucker Glass, who is the Director of Athletics Compliance at RPI, is joining us to talk about NCAA and all of the different nuances of playing a sport in college. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I hope everybody's doing well tonight.
And are you able to share your screen?
I'm going to try to figure that out here real quick. So
Okay.
just didn't want to cut into the previous presenter.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, but I'm a little technically challenged, so I couldn't make it so that just you would be there. So
It's all good.
it just is. Oh, perfect. Excellent.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Awesome. So again, my name is Tucker Glass. I'm the Director of Athletics Compliance at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI, over in Troy, New York. Former Division III student athlete up at SUNY Plattsburgh, and then spent about 8 years either as an athletics administrator or a assistant or head coach at Division III schools across not only New York State, but out in Indiana as well. In addition to that, spent about 1.5 years working at the NCAA national office. So going to present today on a couple different topics that relate to kind of what it would look like to participate in athletics at a institution or collegiate level. So today we're going to kind of tackle, to start the differences between what that looks like and what organizations and levels of the school that you're at. So our 4-year schools in the NCAA, divisions 1, 2, and 3, the differences between those. In addition to that, what does it look like at a 2-year school? Most of those will be National Junior College Association, but if you're somebody who's maybe from California or looking to kind of go to some warmer weather, that the California state system has its own set of junior colleges as well. In addition to that, some of you may know that there's other schools out there that aren't a part of the NCAA structure that's called NAIA or USCAA. That's a mix of 2- and 4-year schools. Let's kind of touch on that briefly because we do have some of those on the East Coast and kind of in the Mid-Atlantic as well. In addition to that, kind of what's the difference between being a varsity collegiate student athlete and the kind of those schools and those divisions and what it may look like to be a club sports student athlete. Lastly, we'll kind of touch on kind of just an overview of NCAA recruiting rules, what it looks like and what you need to know as it relates to preparing for being a Division I or Division II student athlete, what that initial eligibility process is looking like, how you can prepare for that now if maybe you're a sophomore or junior. And if you're a senior, it's not too late to sign up for the Eligibility Center, but it may be something to where if you're short a core course credit, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that you may need to jump on that now as opposed to waiting till the summer. Lastly, I'll just kind of give you some general updates about the landscape of NCAA athletics and kind of the recruiting landscape, just some things that maybe can kind of clean up or clear up what you see on ESPN or on TikTok and really what's happening behind the scenes. There are some QR codes if you're able to take a screenshot if they're working for you. It'll take you right to PDFs that the NCAA has available on their publicly facing websites. If not, a lot of this information, obviously you can try to Google it. Biggest difference in NCAA divisions 1, 2, and 3 is really the structure of each division kind of relates to the size of the institutions. So a lot of your Division 1 schools are a lot bigger. They offer athletic scholarships, as you can see there. It's the second largest division as it relates to the amount of schools that participate, as well as the student athletes that participate. That number in the Division 3 side slightly higher this year in terms of the 202,000 student athletes. Division 3 is typically the biggest division because it is mostly institutions that do not provide athletics aid, but student athletes do receive 80% of financial aid, or excuse me, 80% of Division 3 student athletes receive some sort of non-athletics financial aid. Division 2 is kind of that weird kind of conference in the middle in a lot of ways, but it's a really great blend of the two divisions. It's typically smaller schools or schools in more remote areas that still offer athletics aid and maybe have some specialized academic programs. It's still very highly competitive, but typically it's a school that's not your Penn States of the world or your RPIs of the world, but kind of in that middle frame of athletics driving a lot of revenue at the institution and providing a place for student athletes that maybe aren't quite Division I caliber, but would like that competitive experience as well as that support from an athletic scholarship. Junior colleges are typically your two-year schools. There's actually 3 divisions within the National Junior College Athletic Association. Division I is the highest level of that. A lot of those are your typical Northeast junior colleges that offer a lot of scholarship aid to those different types of cost of attendance figures, as well as tuition and course fees. Some of the smaller Division 2 and Division 3 junior colleges are kind of limited in what they'll offer from a scholarship standpoint. Each division within the junior college structure is something that you'll have to kind of work through with the either athletic administration, the admission staff, or the athletic coach that you're speaking with to kind of figure out what they offer. A lot of junior colleges that do offer scholarships don't cover what's called full cost of attendance, but what they will do is offer you certain things that relate to your attendance as a student at their institution. Most junior colleges as well are places that a lot of students do utilize as a way to kind of get their feet wet as it relates to college coursework and to maybe build up their athletics profile in terms of getting bigger, faster, stronger, or getting more playing time than maybe they would if they were going to go sit the bench at a Division I or Division II program as a non-scholarship student athlete. Things to know when it comes to being a two-year student athlete is that you are burning years and semesters of your eligibility if you are a full-time student and competing and participating as a junior college student athlete on the NCAA's clock. So in Division I, you have a clock that is 5 years from the moment you full-time enroll at a secondary institution, meaning any sort of collegiate or university. So you're burning years on your clock there. In addition to that, you're burning seasons of eligibility every time you kind of trigger a season based on the participation rules in that sport. Additionally, when it comes to Division III, you have 10 full-time semesters, which typically equates to about 5 years at a school that does 2 full-time fall spring semesters each year. And the same thing goes if you play or participate past a certain level, past a certain game threshold, you would burn a season of eligibility in Division III. Same rules go for Division II as well. The biggest thing you need to know is that if you're going to a Division II school to try to find a route to a Division I or Division II school for a scholarship, you really want to make sure that you're hitting the different academic markers that are set in place to making sure that you're staying full-time, you're getting the credits that you need and the GPA that you need to be able to transfer into a school like a Siena, like an Alabama, or maybe it's a Division II school, that is in the Northeast or in a place where that you would be able to participate and receive an athletic scholarship. Some of those other schools that are out there are called NAIA or USCAA schools. Again, a lot of these are dependent on the individual institution. A lot of NAIA schools mostly are 4-year schools that are outside of the East Coast, but they do grant athletic scholarships. University of Mobile is where my uncle used to work as a basketball coach and athletics director down in Mobile, Alabama. They are an NAIA institution. Okay, so it's still a 4-year school, still compete all over the Southeast as well as across the country when they advance to the national tournament. Offer athletic scholarships to both domestic as well as international student athletes. That's kind of a different structure in the NCAA. They usually have a little bit less stringent rules as it relates to kind of eligibility, as well as less structurally kind of organized from a national level. Even though they are an association, they really kind of break it up by region. The USCAA is a mix of schools that are 2- and 4-year all across the U.S., but mainly in the Northeast. Some examples of these USCAA schools are Albany College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, as well as SUNY ESF. Some of these schools grant athletic scholarships. Some of them participate in varsity athletics. Some of them are schools that only participate in varsity athletics in a sport or two, and then mostly offer club and intramural recreational sports. Club sports are not bad. At RPI, we actually have a pretty competitive club hockey program, not our varsity hockey program, but a club hockey program. And I know at SUNY Oswego, which is where I grew up, additionally as well, we have a really great Division III hockey program at Oswego State. But they also have a very competitive club program. So if you're somebody who's interested in being part of a team, continuing kind of that experience that you've had in high school and growing up, but you're maybe not quite signing up for a more rigorous, kind of more demanding lifestyle as it would be to be an NCAA varsity athlete, club sports might be a good route for you to go. The oversight and offerings of each kind of club sport is dependent on your school that you're looking at. So I would definitely say reach out to the student affairs people, ask the admissions counselors at your schools that you're interested in, see what kind of club sports are offered, see kind of where they're funded, how much you would have to pay, because a lot of times these type of programs within a university or a college are governed by a student union or student government association. Sometimes they get funding through those organizations. Sometimes it's strictly pay for play based on your dues that you're providing each year. It really offers a more broad-based participation option than traditional colleges do. So I mentioned club hockey is pretty competitive at a club level at a lot of schools, especially in the Northeast. But you'll find at a lot of schools in the region as well as across the country, it will offer, club sports that compete against other colleges and kind of other unique sports like Quidditch, esports, as well as some other sports, maybe like tennis, to where you're not competing maybe at a really high level like you would if you're at an NCAA school, but still going out, putting your school colors on, traveling in a van or a bus or kind of carpooling to a tournament and playing against other club tennis programs in the area. There's usually no athletic scholarships that are offered for any incoming students for club sports. And specifically, that definitely relates to a lot of schools that are NCAA level that sponsor a club sport. And a lot of times what that means is that if you're an incoming first year, there's no scholarship money that's going to be available to you for being on the rugby team or the tennis team or the club hockey team if you have a varsity sport that is at the school in that level. Again, as I mentioned, most of those competitive club sport programs, they will compete against other colleges, but they're governed by their own organizations, not like the NCAA. They're governed by the student union or student government association, as well as whatever kind of overarching kind of rules setting, schedule setting organization. So in club hockey, that's called the ACHA. They'll typically charge you membership dues annually. It's called kind of pay to play, but it does allow you to continue your sport, kind of grow within that team aspect, meet new friends, new teammates. You'll have a little bit more investment in kind of how your club operates at a club level, because a lot of times club coaches are recent alumni, graduates maybe in the area that used to play this sport that are helping out in their spare time or for a very small stipend. I would check your school's club and student activities websites to see what's offered. Just know that anytime you're at a school that is an NCAA school and you're playing a club sport and you're going out and competing in that club sport against other schools, depending on if that school also offers your sport at a varsity level, know that you are burning seasons of eligibility in that sport. So say you're at RPI, you're on our club hockey team, you do really well, you're interested in maybe going to play at another school, okay, down the line, maybe it's your senior year, you graduated early, okay, you've only been there 3 years, you've decided, hey, I want to go try to play Division III hockey at Skidmore. Okay, well, you need to know that you're not going to have like 4 years of eligibility at the Division III level. Okay, you've burned through 3 of those already. You would only have 1 year left. So it's important to know if you're going to play club sports, you want to make sure that if you are continuing to think about playing at the NCAA level, that you are burning seasons of eligibility. Next kind of topic that we'll hit on here is just kind of a general overview of NCAA recruiting compliance rules. So what is an athletic scholarship? Typically what's called is an athletics grant and aid, and that's done through at a Division I and Division II school only, an athletics aid agreement. There's no more thing called a national letter of intent. That program was sunset, okay, in the fall of 2024. Any type of athletic scholarship that is offered to you that is based on your athletics participation and following a certain set of rules is going to be a part of what's called an athletics aid agreement. You should think of that as like a contract. Okay, there's going to be specific terms and conditions that you will have to abide by in order to maintain that throughout the duration of your time as an undergraduate student athlete at that institution. Division III schools like RPI are for every sport that we have except for our Division I men's and women's ice hockey programs. Those student athletes are only there on scholarships that are afforded because of their academic merit meaning community service, leadership, things that are not athletics participation, leadership, or performance-based, okay, as well as your need-based aid that can be offered to you as a student based on your family's financial situation as well as your personal situation from the school you're coming from and the GPA that you have and the courses on your transcript, okay? So when it comes to Division I, Division II schools, they can kind of combine any sort of academic merit aid as well as maybe need-based aid that you're getting from your FAFSA, or if you're in New York State from your TAP grant, with an athletic scholarship to give you a kind of full financial aid package that includes athletics aid as well as other aid that you earn just based on your qualifications as a normal student. A lot of times at Division I and Division II schools, okay, throughout the admissions process, if you are somebody who's going to be offered an athletic scholarship, they'll have a preferential admissions track. And they'll be able to kind of tier you in a different tier than they would a general student. So it is a positive, I think, when it comes to somebody who's seeking out that is being offered an athletic scholarships. Specifically at Division III, they can let typically admission staff know that it's an athletics recruit, but when it comes to your name going over to financial aid, your status as a recruit is not going, athletics recruit is not going to get you more money because they cannot consider that as a part of your financial aid package when it comes to Division III athletics. In addition to that, if you are somebody who is afforded the opportunity to get an athletics aid agreement or an athletics scholarship, just know that as of August of 2023, that athletic scholarship cannot be reduced or canceled based on anything that you do that relates to your athletic performance. So only for non-athletics reasons could you lose your scholarship, AKA academic misconduct, disciplinary misconduct, okay? Or if you decide that you're not happy at your institution, whether that's because of playing time, you're too far from home, okay? Or you just don't like the major you're in at the school or the coach left. The minute that you enter the NCAA transfer portal to find an option at a different school, the school can rescind your scholarship at that point in time. Additionally to that, if they do rescind your scholarship and it is a disagreement about you maybe breaking an athletics department or a team rule, aka that example I gave about disciplinary misconduct, you can request a hearing to the school's appeals committee if that athletic scholarship is renewed or canceled for those reasons. I always encourage any prospective student athlete that's going through this process that is being offered an athletic scholarship, aka they've sent you something in writing that you're going to sign with your parents if you're under the age of 18. Okay, read those terms and conditions carefully to make sure you see what is and is not included, what the total amount is, not just what the athletic aid that they're offering you is, what the full package is going to look like with the additional academic and merit aid that you might qualify for. See if books are covered. See if your student health insurance is covered. Is room and board covered? Are you going to receive what's called a cost of attendance stipend if you're a really great athlete and they want you to come play at Siena? Okay, sometimes they will be able to offer you up to what's called cost of attendance. So they'll be able to provide you with a little extra money, okay, to pay for those things that don't get covered by room and board and by your books. So additional school supplies, okay. In addition to that, maybe if you're from New York State and you're traveling to play at a Division I or II school in California, this would allow you to have a little extra money to pay for that plane flight out to start classes each fall. In Division I, additionally, you can receive what's called degree completion funds for up to 10 years. So say you're somebody who does really well and you want to move on and enter the Major League Baseball draft after your junior year, but you don't quite finish your four-year undergraduate bachelor's degree. A lot of Division I programs, depending on where you left there and how you kind of went through there as a student, will be able to help you finish your degree up to 10 years after you've kind of left and exhausted your eligibility. Couple different things when it comes to NCAA recruiting rules that you should know if you haven't gone on a visit yet. Know that there's kind of two types of visits that you can engage with athletic staff members on campus with. Unofficial visits are the most common. Timing varies by the NCAA division you're in. Okay, in Division III, you can go on an unofficial visit as early as your freshman year. Typically in Division I, it's a little bit later on in your academic career. and it's definitely based on sport. Different sports have different rules of when you can take an unofficial visit, but no, an unofficial visit, it's typically you and your family paying for that visit. You're paying for the travel. You're showing up on campus. At Division III, they can provide you one on-campus meal during your visit on an on-campus dining facility. That doesn't happen at Division I and Division II, but it is a great opportunity to gather information from a lot of different schools, kind of see what works for you, see what fits, as well as get a chance to take a look at the coaching staff, their facilities, as well as the academics at the school, see what the right fit for you is. An official visit's kind of when you're getting closer to narrowing down your list and you really kind of develop that relationship, that rapport with that coaching staff or that institution's admissions counselor, and the coaching staff has you highly regarded or just a part, okay, of their recruiting class. In Division I and Division II, you need to meet the official visit criteria, which means you've been deemed admissible to the school by their admissions staff, and you've already registered with the eligibility center. In addition to that, okay, recruits can only take one official visit to each school, regardless of whether that's Divisions I, II, or III. A lot of when you can take those visits depends on the division and the sport that you're playing, but typically that happens during your junior year. In Division III, it can only happen after January 1st of your junior year. And these are visits that are typically subsidized in part or paid for in part by the school. Some schools, like high-level Division I's, will pay for all of your travel to and from campus, all your meals, okay, as well as provide you an opportunity to spend the night with a current student athlete or pay for a hotel near their campus. In Division III and Division II, typically smaller school athletic budgets won't afford you the ability to have everything reimbursed, but maybe they'll pay for, okay, the hotel room for the night and meals while you're on your visit. Sometimes schools will pay for gas money if you drove in for there. Please know that, when it comes to coaches, as a former coach, it's not that we don't want to talk to you, but in Division I, Division II, okay, they can only evaluate recruits and have in-person contact with you as well as communicate with you based on what grade you're in and certain times of the year for their sport. It's called a recruiting calendar. Those are actually up on the NCAA website. A lot of you, if you're in a club sport program, will have that information. Okay, but definitely know that if somebody's not reaching out to you and they're a Division I or Division II coach, the issue is probably not that they don't like you, not all the time at least. Sometimes it has to do with their sport rules and what division they're in. Division III schools, different story. Those coaches can contact and evaluate you 24/7, 365 electronically, but they cannot talk to you off campus, in person, face-to-face contact until you're done with your sophomore year. So if you're somebody who's playing a spring sport here and it's April and you're doing really well heading into sectionals and you see a lot of Division III coaches in the stands, you cannot talk to them until you're done with your sophomore year, which is typically in upstate New York, not until the middle or end of June. So it's not, again, that they don't like you. They'll probably text and call you and follow up, email and follow up with you after they came and watched you play. But until you're done with your sophomore year, they can't have that face-to-face contact. Froze there for a second. Couple things to know about the NCAA Eligibility Center. It is something that you have to sign up for as it relates to being cleared to participate in Division I, Division II athletics. It's about $110 this year for domestic students, $170 for international students to sign up. Okay, that QR code is a great spot for a resource that's called the NCAA Guide for the College-Bound Student Athlete. It gives you a lot of the information I'm sharing with you in a lot more detailed format. In addition to that, if you're somebody who's an international student who's a recruit that's going to Division III, or you're somebody who's at a 2 or a 4-year non-NCAA school and you're looking to transfer into Division I or Division II, you're going to go with what's called just an athletics amateurism certification account. That's $75. If you're somebody who doesn't care about that and you're going Division III, I'm going to tell you right now, because it's a brand new rule that's going to start August 1st of this upcoming year, you will need what's called an NCAA ID number. One of the great things that you can do is get ahead of that now. If you know you're heading into that institution here coming up this fall, you'll get a free profile, generate that ID number. So when you have the compliance person at whatever school you're going to or the head coach reach out to you sometime this summer, you're already going to have that. You're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to be in their good graces. Couple of different things that relate to those NCAA eligibility standards. Division I, Division II have specific academic standards you must hit to be eligible to play right away as a first year or to even practice right away and receive your scholarship as a first-year student athlete at their school. Typically, those means that you need to have a certain set of each level of courses that are NCAA approved core courses. And within those, 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of science, including 1 year of the lab, 1 year of an extra math and or science course or English course, 2 years of social science, and then 4 years in a lot of other areas that still are considered core course credits. Your NCAA, or your guidance counselors at your institution that you're currently at are able to provide you kind of what those courses are for your school. There's an NCAA website that's available to them to check those. But you need to make sure that, one, you have a minimum 2.3 core course GPA, that you completed 10 of those 16, okay, including 7 in English, math, or science before you start your 7th semester of high school, which would be that first semester of your senior year. In addition to that, okay, you need to be able to show that you've completed all 16 of those by the end of your senior year. So it is something that you'll want to start to do if you're a sophomore or junior right now. Have that conversation with your guidance counselor, okay? Make sure that you're signing up for the Eligibility Center, submitting your transcripts as you begin the process heading into the fall of your senior year, and you're signing that athletics aid agreement. You want to be on top of that. The last thing you want to be is having me a person like me knock down your door or email you and say, hey, you're not eligible. It's August 31st because we haven't cleared you through the Eligibility Center. We need to make your transcripts from high school and make sure that you're cleared to start participating in athletics at that level. Division II, similar structure, okay, a little bit lower in terms of the 2.2 core course GPA. And then again, those buckets are a little bit lower in certain areas as it relates to how many years you need to take of kind of those core courses. Again, I would recommend that you sign up for the Eligibility Center as soon as possible. If you are somebody who's interested in Division I, you're getting that, or Division II athletics, you're getting that recruiting contact. You're very interested in that commitment, that it is a bit of a more commitment than it is at the Division III level or even at the club or NAIA level. Last thing I'll kind of mention here is just kind of the current landscape of rules, and then I'll open it up for questions. Some of the things that you may have seen about their eligibility lawsuits. There's a lot of lawsuits out there right now. A lot of people are paying a lot of money to lawyers to circumvent the NCAA rules. I will say that there is no changes as it relates to kind of what the NCAA rules are right now. A lot of times, like you saw with Alabama's basketball player, they were eligible for a couple weeks while their lawsuit was kind of held up in court. And then the court came back through the appeals process. The student's no longer eligible for the rest of the season. So definitely something to understand, that if there's people telling you, well, you can get around those rules, that is not typically how it's going to flow in terms of the best interest of you as an individual student athlete. Know that the transfer portal is something that's used more frequently, but there's less movement between divisions with the expiration of COVID waivers and with the changes of the House settlement and the NIL, National Name, Image, and Likeness changes that have happened in Division I. What is an NIL? That's name, image, and likeness. Specifically, that is not pay for play, but for work rendered through some sort of agreement or contract that you've signed. A lot of student athletes that are in Division I, Division II, and even Division III, okay, are having the ability to be brand ambassadors, use social media as a way to make money through NIL. State and federal laws typically supersede NCAA bylaws in these situations. Same when it comes to, there's all different rules for 1, 2, and 3, as well as potentially school and conference rules you'll have to abide by. If you have an NIL agreement or an activity that you do right now where you're compensated for posting things on social media, maybe you're a brand ambassador for an equipment company in your sport, know that you're going to have to disclose that information once you become a full-time enrolled student your freshman year at an NCAA school. Last piece I'll mention again before I open it fully up for questions is House settlement. What is that? That's if you hear about revenue share or rev sharing at larger Division I schools. It's if they make a certain amount of money over what their expenses were for that year, they're able to share that revenue with their sports or their Division I student athletes right now. It can be in the form of direct NIL payments for them doing promotional things for the institutional sponsors that they have. Again, a percentage of the revenue that the conference or the school makes. In addition to that, the House settlement provided full cost of attendance scholarships for the whole roster. It used to be maybe 18 scholarships spread over 30 ice hockey players. Now, if you go to Penn State, they have 26 guys on their roster. They can give 26 full rides to everybody else. Additionally to that, they can provide kind of enhanced educational benefits. What does that mean? Essentially, what that means is they've, for the bigger schools, they've decreased the amount of participation opportunities at probably about 95% of Division I schools. But what they have done is increase the amount of support to the student athletes that are still a part of their programs. Not every sport at every one of those schools has opted in to being able to share any revenue that they have, but they've all kind of opted in as a department to these new rules. So if you're somebody who's in those revenue producing sports, softball, baseball, sometimes ice hockey, but for the most part, it's football and men's and women's basketball. That could be something that's being offered to you. Again, I would just say, like I said, with scholarships, It's a legal contract. Please make sure you read over any NIL agreement or rev share deal, revenue sharing agreement, specifically with somebody who understands legal contracts and structures. You don't want to be taken advantage of just because you're somebody who's being afforded the opportunity to go play men's basketball at the University of Buffalo. It is something to just be aware of. It's a new landscape. It's the Wild West a little bit right now. So please protect yourself, protect your son or daughter. Make sure that you have a lawyer take a look at anything that you're signing as it relates to an athletic scholarship or an NIL or a revenue sharing agreement. That's kind of all that I have. So I will kind of leave it for questions here. If anybody has any, please feel free to fire away. And I believe that this,
So I have a question. Our student athletes will often miss, like if they're traveling far to go to a game for the afternoon, they'll miss their block 4 class and have to make up their work. How often do college students have to miss classes to travel to play?
Yeah, so typically what happens, and I can only give like a lot of context to the institutions that I've worked at.
Sure.
But typically what happens is there's a missed class letter that each program is kind of given to give to their student athletes. You go in, you talk to your professor, you email your professor if it's an online class, and you just let them know that you're not going to be available because your bus leaves at 8 a.m. and you're not going to make 10 a.m. class because you're heading out to go play at SUNY Brockport for a Friday afternoon game. A lot of times it's up to the professor, it's up to the school to kind of work together to handle disagreements maybe between a faculty member and a student who's missing maybe 2 Friday labs in a row. At the Division I level, there's an addition, and II level, there's additional travel that's involved. So a lot of times, typically, unfortunately, what will happen is the head coach and the athletics department will steer students away from majors where that's really not doable for them to be successful and stay eligible. It's not always the case. It's just something that's very dependent on what you're interested in doing academically and what type of athletics department relationship has with the rest of the school.
And then is there extra academic support, like help, tutoring, study hours, whatever, for athletes?
Yes, there definitely is. A lot of times they'll offer general sessions that they'll make sure that they have somebody that comes and presents to what's called the SAC, which is the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, to make sure that they know, hey, if you need Calc 2 tutoring, it's in this part of the library on Wednesday nights from 6 to 7:30. That's typically what happens at a lot of smaller Division I, II schools and most Division III schools. At RPI, we are blessed that we actually have an athletics academic advisor. So she's able to schedule tutoring and help specific students with specific issues in each major. But a lot of times kind of bulk tutoring, general tutoring information will be shared with you as a part of your participation as a student athlete and part of the athletics department's support of you all. If you go to a bigger Division I school, you may have 2 or 3 advisors for your team. That's what happens with a lot of Division I football teams. So you'll have what's called an academic success coach, as well as additional advisors and people in the department that make sure not only are you staying eligible, but you're staying on the pathway to graduation.
Great.
Saw a question in there. Should you, as a sophomore in high school, be getting NCAA ID number? I think if you're interested and you're already having maybe some contact or interest from Division I or Division II schools, it wouldn't hurt. It kind of starts that process early on and helps. If you're not sure, it's lukewarm interest, you don't really know if you even want to play Division I or Division II, I think you could hold off on that until your junior year and you kind of know kind of where you stand and what you're looking for.
That was a great question.
Yeah.
Can you, I know our time's just about up, but I know that people have heard about redshirting. Can you address that?
Sure.
That's one of the common questions I get. So
yeah, of course. So in Division I, Division II, you can use what's called an athletics redshirt year. Those rules kind of depend on each sport of how many games you can play in before you would burn a redshirt year. Football is a little different than other sports, but essentially what that means is you're able to practice, sometimes play in a game or two. Sometimes you can't play at all. It's just practice and train and kind of be a normal student athlete, but you just don't go into a game or dress for a game. And you preserve a season of eligibility on that 5-year clock I talked about in Division I, Division II. That's the only way you can really use what's called a red shirt. In Division III, the only way you can retain eligibility back is through the waivers process. And that's typically only if you suffer some sort of mental, physical, or emotional illness that takes you out for a majority of your season after a certain point in time. Additionally, maybe if you're somebody who suffers an injury, it's called a medical hardship waiver. Those are the only kind of redshirting opportunities that you would have at the Division III level to kind of retain a season that you maybe have triggered.
And then if a student doesn't get recruited, what's the process for trying to walk on once they get to a college?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of times, walking on is a different set of circumstances because you're not going to be supported like maybe if you're at a Division I or Division II school, like the scholarship athletes will. But you would want to reach out to the coach, typically CC anybody who's on the coaching staff on the staff directory, because if it's the head coach, they might not always look at their email for a walk on, but maybe the assistant coach will, and they see something that their head coach doesn't. Some schools will hold tryouts. Some schools will ask for your game film, your transcripts, things like that, so they can evaluate kind of your fit as a student athlete. They'll probably want to talk to you on the phone. If there is an open tryout, that'd be definitely a great place to be seen if they don't know you already. At Division III, a lot of those schools will offer tryouts typically in their non-traditional season. So if you want to be a soccer player, they're not going to probably let you try out after already 3 or 4 weeks into the season since they start up before school starts. But maybe in the spring semester during their non-traditional season, they'll let you try out heading into your sophomore year. That's kind of how we do it at RPI for certain sports. And much like the reverse of that, if you're somebody who's interested in playing on our lacrosse team, who's a top 10 team in Division III, you'll be able to try out in the fall when games kind of really don't count towards the stats. And if you're able to kind of make it through that tryout, they'll let you kind of stay on with the team through the spring.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise. We really appreciate it. And I am, for those people who are still here, I am going to post the PowerPoint as well as the recording on our website, so you'll be able to check it out again. And I think I just want to thank everybody for coming, and thank you so much, Tucker, for being here and talking so much information. I feel like people are going to have questions, so.
Apologies for hitting everybody fast and furious and just try to cover what I could in 20 minutes there. So
I know we didn't give you very much time, so that's on us. So thank you.
Welcome. Have a great evening, everybody. If you need anything, Amy has my contact information. Please feel free to reach out via email. I'll try to do what I can to give you the best advice I can.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here and participating and asking questions. And like I said, we will get this posted in the next day or two so that you can review it, because it was a lot of information. Have a great evening.